Mujtaba's brutal 88th wave of missile strikes has left Israelis bleeding on day 32 of the war, as Iran unleashes yet another barrage designed to grind down the country's defenses. Many Israelis have been injured after Iranian cluster missiles slammed into major cities, scattering bomblets across residential areas and adding to the climate of fear and chaos. Iran has also bombed what it claims was an Israel-linked cargo ship and struck a reported gathering point for US troops, signaling that it is ready to expand the battlefield beyond Israel alone. Tehran is piling on the pressure just as President Trump appears to be preparing for an exit from the conflict, even though the vital Strait of Hormuz remains effectively shut and global trade is still at risk. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps announced the 88th wave of Operation True Promise 4, proclaiming a new phase of coordinated strikes aimed at Israeli and US targets in the region. According to reports cited by the Times of Israel, Iranian missiles armed with cluster warheads slammed into parts of central Israel on March 31st, sharply escalating the nature of Tehran's attacks. These cluster bombs are designed to burst open in mid-air, scattering dozens of smaller bomblets that rain down over a wide stretch of territory and dramatically expand the danger zone. Because they release many bomblets instead of a single charge, cluster munitions are more difficult to intercept completely and can cause severe damage across a much larger area than standard missiles. At least 8 people were injured in the March 31st barrage on central Israel, with emergency services rushing casualties from multiple impact sites. Impacts were reported in the densely populated areas of Bnei Brak, Ramat and Petah Tikva, heightening public fear that everyday urban centers are now firmly in the firing line. Iran's forces also claimed responsibility for targeting a cargo ship associated with Israel, named the Hafong Express, signaling that their latest wave of attacks extends to maritime assets as well. Iran claimed it had carried out a precise strike on what it described as a gathering point for US Marines on the UAE coast, signaling a direct challenge to American deployments in the Gulf region. Tehran also asserted that an anti-drone system belonging to the US fleet based in Bahrain was destroyed, framing the attack as part of a broader effort to blind American defenses. In a further claim, Iran said it had taken out an advanced aerial radar at the Jabal al-Ahmed base, presenting this as another blow to US surveillance and early warning capabilities in the area. The Revolutionary Guard reiterated that the Strait of Hormuz remains completely under Iran's control, underscoring its leverage over one of the world's most critical oil and shipping choke points. Iran additionally claimed it had intercepted an American MQ-9 drone over Isfahan, the same region that was recently bombed by US forces in a strike on Iranian military assets. Washington is reported to have used bunker buster bombs against an ammunition depot in Isfahan on March 31st, highlighting how deeply the air war has now penetrated Iranian territory.
برآوردهای غلط رئیس جمهور آمریکا و سران جنایتکار رژیم صهیونیستی باعث گردیده است که ملت قهرمان و دشمن ستیز و نیروهای مسلح مقتدر و شجاع ایران را با شاخصهای مادی و دنیایی خود بسنجند. چنین محاسبات اشتباهی حضور بی‌سابقه مردم بصیر و انقلابی در خیابانها و اقتدار و ایستادگی معجزه‌گون نیروهای مسلح در میدان نبرد را برای دشمن غیر قابل پیش بینی نموده است. این خطای راهبردی دشمنان آمریکایی و صهیونیستی ایران اسلامی آنها را تحقیر و در مسیر نابودی قرار داده است. آنها با خیالات و توهم فکر می‌کنند با جنگ تبلیغاتی و نمایش سلاح‌ها و تجهیزات به ظاهر پیشرفته نظامی و ترور کودکان، زنان، مردان، دانشمندان و فرماندهان شجاع نیروهای مسلح کشور خواهند توانست ایران مقتدر و سربلندی را که در طول تاریخ در برابر دشمنان خود سر فرود نیاورده است را تسلیم نمایند و یا به خیال خام و باطل خود بر تنگه هرمز تسلط پیدا کنند که این آرزو را تا ابد به گور خواهند برد. دشمنان شکست خورده آمریکایی صهیونیستی ایران اسلامی باید بدانند ملت آگاه و مقاوم و فرزندان سرافراز آنها در نیروهای مسلح ثابت کردند پای هر متجاوزی به کشورشان را قطع و آنها را به خاک سیاه و مذلت خواهند نشاند و من نصر الا من عند الله العزیز الحکیم.
Meanwhile, reports suggest President Trump is preparing to end the conflict even if the Strait of Hormuz is not fully reopened, raising questions about how much economic pressure the US and its allies are prepared to absorb. Iran signaled what it called a new phase in the conflict by launching its 87th round of strikes on March 30th, portraying this wave as an escalation in its ongoing campaign. The IRGC announced that its latest airstrikes were aimed at joint US-Israeli command centers and locations it described as secret hideouts used by military pilots. Tehran stated that these attacks formed part of the 87th wave of its ongoing Operation True Promise 4, which it frames as a sustained response against US and Israeli forces. According to Iranian officials, the 87th wave involved a mix of ballistic missiles and so-called kamikaze drones, intended to hit multiple targets across a wide area. The IRGC named several systems, including Ahmad, Chiam, and Khorramshahr missiles, saying these were among the weapons deployed in the latest round of strikes. Iran asserted that its forces had effectively struck command nodes, drone storage hangars, and weapons warehouses, though the extent of actual damage remains independently unverified. The IRGC stated that it focused on what it called hiding places used by American and Israeli pilots, presenting these locations as key operational hubs rather than ordinary residences. Iranian authorities claimed that 5 US military bases in the wider region came under attack in this latest round, without providing detailed evidence for each reported strike. Tehran reported that its missiles and drones were directed at sites in Haifa Bay, Kiryat Shmona, Tel Aviv, and Beersheva, describing them as military-linked targets inside Israel. Iran further listed Dimona, Al-Kaj, and Jufair as locations hit by IRGC units, suggesting a geographically dispersed set of strikes across several countries. At the same time, the IRGC accused Israel of carrying out a covert attack on a water desalination facility in Kuwait, alleging it was done to inflame regional tensions. Tehran described the alleged operation in Kuwait as a false flag strike, condemning it as both unlawful under international norms and inhumane due to its impact on civilian water supplies. The IRGC urged governments across the Middle East to remain vigilant, warning that what it calls American-Israeli plots and sedition could drag more countries into the conflict.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that look, you will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest news makers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the U.S. will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry ghats.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Deep dive into burning issues.
It's often said DRC could be the richest country in the whole world. It's because of what sits underneath.
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HD videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.